Chapter 3. Tea Time in Germany. It's not just my granddad's car that is pink. Lots of other things in his house are pink too. All the walls are pink and the bathroom carpet is as bright as a flamingo. The cake mixer is light pink, so is the toilet roll, and so is the flowery duvet on their bed. Mum says it's like Grandma has gone, but there are still pieces of her everywhere. Even her pink raincoat hangs on the coat hook next to Grandad's hat. The only room that isn't pink is the sitting room, where the curtains are always pulled over, making it as dark as a cinema. Mum is always asking Grandad to open them. Wouldn't he be happier if he let the light in? But Grandad just barks that he prefers them closed. So that's where me and Grandad sit and eat our tea every evening in the dark while he watches the German news on TV. Do you want more bread? He asks. No, thank you, I reply. But I am thinking, you must eat something. I'm full up, Grandad, I say. Just another sausage. I sigh as Grandad slides another sausage onto my plate. Grandma used to bake fruitcake and cook shepherd's pie and fry the best chips ever. Now all Grandad seems to eat is tinned sausages and tinned beans and packets of ham and bread from Lidl and Tesco. I don't like sausages, but luckily Samson, Grandad's ginger cat, loves them. I squeak him over, listen for the clink of Grandad washing the plates in the sink, then I break the sausage into 3 pieces and feed it to Samson, who gobbles it up. Have you homework? I jump as Grandad walks back in. Yes, Grandad, I say, try not to look guilty. Then I am thinking you should get on with it. He nods at my bag beside me on the table. I sigh. I wish I tried harder and stayed at school. All my work would be done and I could be watching TV or talking to Mum and Dad if they were in. They've been working stacks since Dad's plumbing business went bust last year. Mum says we need the money, and I know we do, but I'd like to see them too. I slide the bag towards me and get my books out. Did you want more light? Asks Grandad. No, I'm okay, I lie. It doesn't matter if the room was lit by football lights. I still won't be able to concentrate long enough to read what's on the page. Mum and Dad are right when they say I've got ants in my pants. I've always been that way, but since last year, it's like I've got a colony of them crawling all over my body and niggling at my brain. I must concentrate, but the harder I try, the worse it gets. At primary school, I used to get extra help from Mrs. Lowe's. She helped everyone in my class, so nobody really noticed. But at secondary school, it's different. I didn't get help at all in the first term. After Christmas, Mrs. Hudson, the support assistant, thought it would be a good idea to sit with me in maths and English, but it felt like everyone was staring at me, which made concentrating even harder. I told her I didn't need her help. All I wanted to do was get rid of her, because having her sitting beside me was more embarrassing than going down to town with your mum. So now I just have catch-up lessons instead. I open my maths book as Grandad sits in his chair and flicks through the TV channels. Das Erz, Bayerischer Rundfunk, ZD Vino, RTL. There are pictures of floods in Bremen, people marching down the street in Munich, and bolts of lightning flashing across the sky and hitting the TV tower in Hamburg. Then the picture switches to a reporter talking outside the Parliament building in Berlin. I see it every day of the week because Grandad has a satellite dish that beams all the German TV channels into his sitting room. He can get English channels too, but mostly he just watches the German news. He says it's one way he keeps in touch with Germany. The only other way is when he goes to meet his friends at the German friendship group every Tuesday. He took me once when I was little and I thought it was scary because it was full of strangers talking in a language I didn't understand. Grandma said I came home crying, but I don't remember that bit. Back on the TV, the picture changes to the floods with people being rescued from their houses by firemen in yellow dinghies. Then the picture flicks to people gathered in a hall with blankets around their shoulders. It's like Noah and... How big was the ark, Grandad? What? Grandad turns around. Noah's ark, Grandad, I say. Was it as big as an ocean liner or bigger, like an aircraft carrier? Grandad shakes his head. Felix, he says, sometimes you are really confusing me. I know, Grandad, but just say how big you think it might have been. Would have to be massive to get 2 of every animal on it. Felix, I am watching the news. This is serious. People are in trouble. I know, I'm only asking. Grandad turns back to the TV. I think of asking him again, but he seems very worried about what is happening in Germany. I'd like to chat to him about it, but he hardly ever talks to me about his country. I think that's a bit strange. I don't know where he lived or worked. I don't even know the city where he was born. The only time he talks about growing up is when he tells me how he met Grandma at a dance in Buller's Ballis, a famous dance hall in Berlin. Then his eyes light up like a disco ball. He says he noticed her because she was wearing a pink flowery dress. But most of all, he remembers she was sitting on her own reading The Little Prince in the corner of the room. There is nothing before. My dad says that's just Grandad being Grandad and no one can change him. But I find it weird that Grandad's life only seemed to start when he was 18. I rest my head on my hand and look around the room. It's so dark and quiet that all I can hear is the sound of my breath and the ticking of the clocks. There are clocks everywhere. There's a big wooden one on the mantelpiece, and another on the sideboard, and another on the shelf by the door, and there's a giant grandfather clock with a pendulum which knock, knock, knocks in the hall. It's another hour until Jake is back. Maybe I could just go home and watch The Amazing Spider-Man or play Fortnite on my PS4. Nope, I have to try. I need to work or otherwise he'll tell Mum and Dad when they get back. They'll get annoyed. But they'll be even madder once they find out I've been sent home early again. Mum said I was running out of chances, and that was 2 weeks ago. Grandad turns the TV off and picks up the giant chess book. It's the thickest book I've ever seen, even thicker than the Bible, and Grandad seems to read a page of it every day. I shuffle along to the table so I can catch the tiny bit of sunlight shining through the gap in the curtains. My maths book is full of my scrawly blue ink, and in the margins Mr. Andrews' scrawly red. Every page seems to have more of his ink than mine. I blow out my cheeks. In the corner of my eye, I see Grandad peering over at me over the top of his book. You okay? Like he's telling me I am, not asking a question. Yes, Grandad, I nod. He looks back at his book. He doesn't understand how I feel like everyone else. I open my exercise book to page 63. Simultaneous equations. Complicated equations. Too hard for me to do equations. The Amazing Spider-Man, Fortnite, Angry Birds on my phone. I shake them all out of my head. I have to concentrate. All my teachers say it. I must concentrate. I must sit still. But I can't. Last week in cookery, Mrs. Lennon said I'm so easily distracted I'd follow a bee out of the window. I push the maths books aside and switch to history. Question 1. Imagine you are a suffragette. Write an account of what it would be like if people did not have the right to vote. What would it feel like not to be heard or have a voice? What actions would you take so that people took notice of your opinion? I wonder what's for tea. Oh, I already had it. Imagine you're a suffragette. Grandad turns the TV up louder. It's still raining in Germany. The floods are getting worse. Imagine you're a suffragette. I hear a faint tickle of a bell and look up. Samson slinks through the hall. Would you like me to feed Samson, Grandad? I say this like it's the most exciting thing I could do. No, Grandad shakes his head. I think you should work. I sigh. It never used to be boring like this when Grandma was alive. I glance at the picture of her smiling face on the mantelpiece and imagine her voice when she used to sing along to the radio in the kitchen in the mornings, and her hugging me every time I walked through the door, even if I'd only gone to the shops for bread. I go to give her the change and she'd press the coins into my palm, telling me to save them for a rainy day or spend it on sweets. Spend it on one of those computer game things. Spend it on anything you like. But since she's been gone, it's like it's raining all the time. Like the closed curtains have drained all the colour and laughter from the house. All that's left is her pink car, German TV, and the tick tick ticking clocks. She didn't look like my grandma when she was ill, not even in her pink dressing gown. But she still smelled of roses and told me stories about when I was born, when I was growing up, how she and grandma used to dress me up in a furry zip-up suit that made me look like a seal and then take me for a walk in the park. Grandad doesn't talk about things like that. All he does is talk about the news or the weather, or spend his time cutting the garden hedge or mending the hinges on doors. Imagine you're a suffragette. Imagine Imagine the person you loved loads isn't around anymore.